I direct them, I give them suggestions. And what we do, coaching families, we help them get to a place of awareness, understand with their financial situation, think about the future, create a vision for their future, see where they're, how to get there, make a work plan to get there, and then help them build a budget that works and that they're able to maintain. Tonight, I want to talk about I think one of the most significant areas of expenses that we encounter in our lives, is the wedding expenses, making a wedding. It's a lot of emotions there. There's a complex expenses, and we want to address all the aspects of it. So I want to just tell you a little bit about Masila. Originally, Masila started as a debt consolidation gemach. It was called Gemach Sidur Chovot in Hebrew, which that means gemach, basically a debt consolidation gemach. People would borrow money for all types of things. People would borrow from gemachim, and then when they saw that they came to a situation where they were unable to pay it back, they would come to Masila, and Masila would give them one big loan with much easier conditions for repayment, spread it out over many years, and they help many families that way. Makes the burden much lighter. People are able to consolidate their loans. But the problem was that after a year, 2, 3 years, many of these families came back for a second round. They wanted to consolidate the new debts that they had taken upon themselves. And what the founders of Masila realized was that it's not only about giving people money and giving people help. There's education that's needed. There's behaviors that people have to develop. Just teaching people how to become self-reliant is its own thing. And that's really what the goal of Masila is now, to help people become self-reliant and not need, as much as possible, not need to come on to other people, not to need debt consolidation, to be able to just make it on their own. And if they do have to come onto these things and they do need help, it should be done in a way that makes sense, and it's not a crutch that's just making it more difficult for people. An extra loan is supposed to help people and not hinder them. So that's the idea of Masila now. So we do that through education. We have elementary school education, high school education. We have newlywed education. Then we have coaching. Our flagship is the coaching, where a coach will meet with a couple and take them through a process to get them to financial stability. And we do webinars, we do seminars, workshops, which is like the coaching, but it's done as a group. So why talk about weddings? Now, a wedding, that's in our lives, that's like the pinnacle of joy. That's the ultimate simcha that we have, the ultimate celebration. And it's really where we're all trying to get to. And it really should be the happiest night of a parent's life. Should be the night where they marry off their children. And unfortunately, there's so much stress in the period that leads up to it, and which is financial stress, making decisions, trying to figure things out, that often people come to the wedding and they're just stressed out and they're unable to enjoy the simcha as much as they should be enjoying it. What I'd like to do is try to see what strategies and what approaches can be used to make things easier. Look, there's always going to be stress. There's always going to be, pressure. But what can we do to make it a little bit easier? So there are two aspects to it. Two aspects to what needs to be done. One is the technical aspect, what to do. Meaning, technically, there are things that can be done to make sure that the expenses are accounted for and that we're prepared for all aspects of the wedding. But there's also the behavioral side, which is understanding why we do things, understanding what causes the pressure, what causes us to spend money in the areas that we spend, and maybe we could have some tools to address that as well, not just the technical, but to address the emotional side, the behavioral side as well. We'll start with the technical, because that's, I think, that's that's more general. It applies to more people. And the emotional is very specific. Each particular couple's behavior and emotions they're specific. Let's start with the technical side. Okay, so the first thing to do is like this. First thing to do is to plan ahead. Instead of coming into the wedding and like, okay, Mazel Tov, your child's engaged. Now what? Now you start scrambling. You start to think about, okay, what are we going to do? Where are we going to make the vart? Where are we going to make the chasana? And everything is planned on such high pressure. So as much planning ahead as that you could possibly do, the better off you're going to be. Now you want to do it in a way, because it's such a big event and it's such a important part of life, you want to do it in a way that you'll stay healthy, financially stable and financially healthy. And you have to keep in mind that the wedding is the wedding, but the wedding is one night. That's the wedding ceremony, the wedding celebration. The marriage lasts forever, and the main focus is the marriage and not the wedding. The wedding is there to celebrate the marriage that is going to come, and that's what the focus has to be. How can we make a wedding that's best designed to give them a good start in life and to make sure that the marriage starts off on the right foot? So the best way to do this is to make a written plan, to actually write everything down, to have a spreadsheet, write things down, write down all the expenses that are going to come up, anticipate them, and after you anticipate everything, you make the plan. You should still expect surprises, but you know they're going to be surprises. Things are not going to necessarily work out exactly as you planned, but still having the plan it's fundamentally different from just going in without any plan at all. So you make a plan, be flexible, but once you've done that, once you have the plan and it's clear to you what your expectations are and how you'd like things to look, it makes things much easier. How do you do that? How do you plan ahead? We say you should consult the experienced. It's very hard. There are a lot out there. There are a lot of these lists that you can get, but it's very hard to have a list that's generic, that includes everything for everybody. And also, it's very hard to have an amount. It's impossible for me. I mean, a lot of people ask this. They call Masila and they're like, how much should I spend on? How much should we spend on a caterer? How much should we spend on a wedding hall? Different expenses that people ask Masila, and it's not possible to answer that. Even in this meeting itself, people here from Eretz Yisrael, I'm sure, people from America, people from England, and even in each of these countries, you have different neighborhoods, and in each neighborhood, there are different social expectations from different communities. It's impossible to say this is the amount that you should be spending on anything. And Masila doesn't believe in that. Masila does not believe in telling other people how much they should be spending on what. So what do? How do you figure out how much you should be spending? So the thing is, try to find people in your own social circle. If this is your first time making a wedding, and even if you've made weddings before, but you haven't done it this way, it's never too late. Find people in your own social circle that share your lifestyle. Now, share your lifestyle means they're living on the same standard of living in general. Maybe your incomes are similar. Just people with a similar lifestyle, and ask them. They have to be people who have made weddings, people who you know to be responsible people. Now, if you're going to ask people who are not responsible, you're not going to get it. It's not going to help you. People who are responsible, people who have made weddings, they share your lifestyle, and then you can start asking them what's normal, what did you do? Now, they might tell you, truth is we didn't plan it ahead so well. We didn't do so much research. We can't tell you what other people do, but we could tell you what we did. Now, if you ask enough people about that, you can get a pretty good idea of what things should cost, what things do cost in your circles, and then you can start planning based on that. You might also want to consider like a professional. There are people who help with this. People who do wedding plans, coach people, and Masila also. Masila does provide coaching. You can have a coach work with you and figure out the wedding expense. But the very important thing to speak to people in your circle, because the things that you do in one place are not going to be the same things that people do in other places. Therefore, there should be people who are similar to you, and you can ask them. What do you do? Okay, so you speak to them. Now, before you speak to them, you're going to need a list, a general list of what are the general expenses. Take that list and then talk to them and start asking them for different expenses. Let's take a look. Okay, so I'm sure in many communities, I've seen this in Lakewood, I've seen it in Eretz Yisrael, there are lists that you can get of wedding expenses, like check boxes, and you could write the different expenses. And they might even have the numbers there. There are lists that you could get a hold of. But again, make sure that it's local, realistic expectations, and they might have the price ranges. I want to show you Mesila's list. Now, Mesila's the list that I'm going to show you now. Again, it's just a template. It's not etched in stone. There are going to be expenses that in one area are in one community are relevant, and another community are not relevant. So you'll have to see, what applies and what doesn't apply. Let's take a look for a second. Let me just make sure I'm sharing it with you. Let me just go 1 second. There we are. Okay, 1 second. Let me share this with you. What do you see on your screen now? Okay, here we are. 1 second. Okay, here. Were you able to see my screen before? You were able to see the slides? You weren't watching the slides the whole time? Okay, nobody said anything. I don't know why that was. Screen sharing is paused. Resume. Give me a second, please. I don't know why it's not sharing. Mm. Let me try to bring it on this here. What do you see now? You see anything?
It says Masila's Zoom has started screen sharing. double click to enter full screen mode. That's what I see, a black screen.
A black screen. I don't know. For
Yeah,
some reason, I don't know why it's not sharing.
it just says that a double click to enter full screen mode. Question is, do we have to double click?
Okay, I'm not sure why it's not sharing my screen. There's something wrong. It says that it's sharing, and it says that the sharing is paused, and I'm unable to make it move. Something might be a glitch in Zoom. I don't know. It might be. So let's do this. I'll just read to you. I'll read to you the list. Okay, so we have like this. You have the engagement period. During the engagement period, you have the shadchan, you have clothes, you have an invitations, photographer, vert, suda for vert, announcements, transportation, music. You have a total for that. That's just the engagement itself. Then you have, for example, the gifts for the chassan. Shas, Shulchan Aruch, Menorah, Esrog box, talis bag, kittel, gifts for in-laws, gifts for siblings, gifts for Shabbos, travel to stores. Then we have clothing for the family. Parents' clothing, suits, white shirts, ties, socks, cufflinks, shirts for Sheva Brachos, haircuts, tzitzis, kippas, shoes, boys' clothing, girls' clothing, extra clothing. Now, clothing for the Kala, everyday clothes, Shabbos clothes, Sheva Brachos outfits, coat, shoes, winter shoes, cloth shoes, summer shoes, house shoes, comfortable shoes, wedding shoes, shaitel box, shaitel for Shabbos, shaitel, weekday robe, Shabbos robe, undergarments, socks, nightgowns, hair accessories, winter undershirts, towel robe, shaitel brush, comb, shaitel head, shaitel spray, tichels, hats, makeup bag, jewelry box, toothbrushes, toothpaste, dental floss, nail clippers, cotton swabs, tweezers, hairbrush, mouthwash, razor, small scissors, mirror, perfume, deodorant, bath sponge, soap, bar soap, face cream, makeup remover cream. Did I leave anything out? Did I miss anything? Wait, let's keep going. Okay, that's now trousseau, bedding, bath towels, down comforter, wool blankets, summer blankets, pillows, bed cover, fleshing milking tablecloths, Shabbos tablecloths, fleshing milking dishes. Now, miscellaneous, toothbrush, toothpaste, marriage registration, invitation stamps, stickers, cousin college classes, opening a joint bank account, paying off debts. Okay, that's interesting. That's in Israel, paying bituach leumi debts in Israel, because if your kids have, what happens in Israel is they have the social security here. It's called bituach leumi, and when the kids turn 18, they have to start paying it themselves. And if they haven't paid it, they now have a debt to bituach leumi, which you may not know about. Okay, updating work address, updating Tudat Zehut. Next, the wedding itself, the hall, the meal portions, the bar, the Kabbalah Spanim, children's meal portions, flowers, photographer, videographer, band, kala's gown, makeup for the wedding, flowers for the kala, tuksuvit, mementos, badchen, sound system amplifiers. Next, Shevrach, an offer of the suda, the kiddush, the candy, seeds and nuts, rental apartment for guests, food and drink for rental apartment, souvenirs, gift transportation, and then household products. We have, I'm almost finished. Beds, mattresses, closet, kitchen table and chairs, dining room table and chairs, bookshelf, dresser, fridge, oven and stove, washing machine, dryer, air conditioning, night lamps, emergency lights, iron and ironing board, space heater, bathroom heater, electronic kettle, landline phone, hair cutting kit, alarm clock, toaster Shabbos or plata for Shabbos, mixer, food processor, microwave, toaster oven, stack up the house, first aid, alcohol and other medicines, rent, lawyer, fee for opening a loan, rent for a period, mortgage, monthly payments, living arrangement. Building dues are no, new phone number, moving costs, cleaning, pest control, mortgage consultation. Anyway, nice long list of expenses. Nice long list of expenses there. Now, on our spreadsheet, we have three columns. There's actually four columns. One column, the first three columns are the budget, and then the last column is the actual expense. So it's like this. You put the minimum amount that you could be expected to pay for any of these expenses. Then you have the average. Then you have the maximum. Maximum is the most that you would be willing to pay for any one of those categories. Then you have your decision, which one of those, what you ultimately decided. And then there's another column for what you actually spent in the end. Because even after you make your decision, it's not necessarily going to work out that the amount that you decided is going to be the amount exactly that you spent. And like we said, you got to be flexible, but you want to always have something, you want to have something to reference, something to base yourself on. And even if it ends up being a little more, but it's not going to be drastically more once you have a clear decision on what you want to do. Just see if I could. A little upsetting that I can't share with you. Try again. Try one more time, see if it works. Now you can see it, right? Okay, I don't know what was wrong with it. Okay, this is what we're up to. I'll get a list. Okay, the Masila list. Should I try to? Okay, I'll try to send it. We have all your emails, so I'll try to send you the list. Then settle on a realistic budget. Okay, once you've done your research, settle on a budget that reflects both the actual costs and what you can afford. If the costs are more than what you have, you'll need to find ways to either cut down on the expenses or to borrow. Now, again, we're not against borrowing. Sometimes people have to borrow. We're not, borrowing is not the end of the world. Borrowing without a cheshbon and without knowing how you're going to pay it back, that's a big problem. If you're going to borrow, but you know how you're going to pay it back and it makes sense, and there's some kind of a plan in place that works, so you can do that. But don't do it, nothing that's risky and that you won't be able to pay back. Plan to do it in a way that you stay stable. Okay, this is some of what I mentioned before. The wedding itself, these are the categories. I was just reading through it quickly. You have the wedding itself, you have the gifts and clothing, you have other events, you have setting up a home, and then in some places, a home purchase is also part of the wedding expense. The home purchase is like in Eretz Yisrael for some communities, a home purchase, that's part of making the chasana, that you're going to buy a home as well. So that has to be taken into consideration too. You want to make sure that you have at least the ballpark figures. Like I said, it's not going to be exact. Ballpark figures around how much it's going to be. And what I mentioned before, that's the best thing. The best thing is to have a minimum. Minimum doesn't mean the least you're willing to spend, because if you get it for free, you could also take it. Minimum is the least that you project that it's going to be. You have your minimum. You have your maximum. Your maximum is like the most that the most you're willing to spend, and then you have the average, and the actual expense should be somewhere in there. So be flexible. Focus your shop. So okay, ballpark figures help. Focus your shopping. Meaning, when you shop, try to stick to the budget, stick to what you plan for yourself, and you'll stay within the range of what you've planned. If you go a few percentage points above what you planned, it's okay. But we're talking about, you're not going to double it, or even do 25% more. That would be a lot. And then adjust it as needed. You could adjust along the way. Now, what does it mean to adjust? Sometimes you'll have to come up with a different figure. You'll have to move things around, but it's very important like this. You want to have an overall number that you're going to spend on the wedding. You have a general amount that you're going to spend, and you know that more than, let's say, the entire thing, including all the categories, is going to be X amount. Now I saw that they're making they just built the Chasana Hall in Lakewood. For $13,000, you could get everything, right? $13,000 includes everything, both sides, meaning $6,500 for each side. So you have, let's say, you have your overall expense, including the vart, the wedding, Sheva brachas, clothing. What are you going to spend all together? Now, if something ends up costing, if a particular expense ends up being more than you expected, you can always readjust it somewhere else. Because especially if one of the expenses that you've chosen was your maximum, you said, okay, the maximum, and you chose the maximum, so maybe you'll readjust in one of those areas. But always keep in mind that there's a pie. You can cut the pie only. You have a pizza pie. You can cut it into 12 slices. You cut it into 16 slices. You cut it into 80 slices, but it's just the same pie. And you can make bigger slices and smaller slices. The same thing is here. You have the pie. You have the amount that you're willing to spend. maybe you have a little flexibility there, but once you have a pretty clear picture of what you're willing to spend, if things change, then you'll have to adjust another area. Don't let yourself go. People have this habit of like, okay, whatever, we're making a wedding anyway. I don't know I'm going to pay for this anyway, so I'm just going to let myself go. Those expenses end up being the most. Don't just let go. If you need to adjust in one area, you need to raise the price in one area, so lower the expense in another area. Now, when you do need to adjust, these are some of the things that you should be careful of when adjusting, so that you don't adjust in a way, you don't make your decisions in a way that's not thought out and not balanced. So try to avoid your last minute choices, and don't decide when you're tired, upset, or overly excited. So, for example, you want to take a certain band. Okay, you want to take a certain band. It costs you a couple of $1,000s, whatever it is. Now you found out that Yaakov Shweki has a sale. He's doing it very cheap. Only usually I don't know how much he charges. $50,000. It's only $40,000. You're very excited. It's like, wow, he's really cheap. You get very excited. It's exaggerated, but when sometimes you're excited when you see some kind of a sale, you see something like an opportunity, and then you make the decision based on excitement. It's not going to be a wise decision for you. When you're tired, your head's not clear. When you're upset, your head's not clear. All these, when you're any time when you're in an emotional state and you're not focused, you're not calm, the decisions that you make then will not be the right decisions for you. They're going to be impulsive decisions, and therefore you should, if possible, I'm not saying it's always going to be possible. Sometimes decisions have to be made on the spur of the moment, but sometimes sleep on it. If something came up, something had to be changed, sleep on it. Think about it. Maybe the next day you'll have more clarity. Don't make the decisions under stress. Okay, more time is more savings. Give yourself more time to plan things. Give yourself more time to look, to research, to think about things. You'll save more. And also think about the fact that you don't need to have everything right now. You have the long list of things. So you might want to say, person's instinct is, okay, let me buy everything before the wedding so that they could be stocked up. But not everything has to be bought right away. There are things that some things could wait. Like I don't know what was on the cotton swabs. Wait, it doesn't have to be bought right away. Okay, so the more time you have to do things, the more time you have to decide, the more time you have to research and compare, the more your decisions will be in line with your budget, and you'll be able to accomplish much more. Now, here's another very important thing. Where are we? Yeah, divide and conquer. Keep the budget separate. It's a very good idea to have a separate bank account for the wedding. You have to think of making a wedding is like starting a small business. I know a lot of people have their business expenses mixed up with their household expenses as well, which is like the first thing we try to do when couples come to Masila for coaching, is try to separate their business expenses and their from their personal finances. But making a wedding is like starting a small business. And just like for a business, the best thing is to have your own separate account and everything tracked separately. It's a good idea to have a separate bank account. This is the wedding bank account. You could transfer the money to that account. You could put, if you're going to borrow money, you put it right into that account. If somebody's going to help you out, straight into that account. It could be an account. It could be a separate credit card that you have. You can have envelopes for this. But the more you separate it and you understand that this is a separate part of your finances, and you don't have them mixed together, you can keep track of what you're spending, keep track of where the money's going, and not get it all mixed up and then lose control of the whole thing. Now, it's very important to choose what's important. And there should be open communication all the time. Sometimes we're like a little bit embarrassed to discuss things with Hassan and Kala. It's like, we feel like not nice. Let's just give them everything, or we're embarrassed to discuss with the Mukatanim. But you have to have the right balance of all these things: social norms, the Mukatanim, the Hassan and the Kala, and your budget. Find the right balance for all these things, and keep in mind what's important. If you have the open communication and you're communicating with everybody, and I just want to take a step out for a second and talk about this. When clients come to us, very often it's like this: they come for coaching and they want to make changes. So how does it work? They come, we help them get a financial picture, like a financial snapshot, exactly what's going on with their finances, income, expenses, assets, liabilities, total financial picture. Then what do we do? What's the next step? So before people come to Masil, they assume the next step is for the coach to help them create a work plan. But it doesn't work that way. Before we help them create a work plan, we have them, once they have their financial snapshot, we have them create a vision for the future. Now, why is this so important? Why is it so important for them to have a vision? The answer is because a vision is a look at the future, which is based on the values that are important to me. When I can have a vision of the future based on values that are important to me, and especially when it's a couple, and you want values that are important to both the husband and the wife, and they may not ever have discussed this in a formal way, in a real way, to have them do that, to sit down and say, where do we want to be in 5 years from now? Why do we want to be there? Why is that where we want to be? What are our values? And then to figure out what we're willing to do and what we're not willing to do to get there, that's a major part of the coaching, and that's what really works. That's what makes people change. Now, the same thing is true when it comes to deciding what you're going to spend on the wedding. When you have a vision of what you want the future to look like, what you want the children's future to look like, what's important, what do you want your future to look like, and what your values are, then you can make all the financial decisions based on that. That's a very important part of the whole picture, is to have clarity on values. Clarify your values and make the decisions based on those values. Remember, to focus on the big picture. The details will fade. I don't know. Who remembers exactly what the menu was at their own wedding? I don't remember what I ate at my wedding. I don't remember what the guests. I don't think the guests remember that. Okay, the musician. These, unless something goes really wrong, that is not the most important thing. But the tone, that's what remains. I remember my uncle, my own chasana. I got married here in Eretz Yisrael, a place called Tamir. It doesn't exist anymore. It's now an old age home. Now, it wasn't a fancy wedding at all. It was a normal Israeli wedding. My uncle was here from America. He said this after the wedding. He told me this was the nicest wedding I've been to. The most beautiful wedding I've been to. That's what he told me. The tone, the feeling, the simcha, the joy, that's what people remember. And we have to remember that everything else, the food, the music, the flowers, the band, everything that's going on is there in order to create that tone. And that tone is going to bring the simcha that'll start the marriage off correctly. But that's what it's about. It's about creating the tone and not to lose focus of the fact that that's what it's for. And it's not there just for itself. So keeping that in mind, knowing what we're doing it for and what the purpose is and what our goal is, that will allow us to make our decisions wisely. Remember that a budget is a guide. It's not a straitjacket. It's there to tell you, to give you a reference point, but it's not a straitjacket. It's not like, you don't have to be neurotic about it and say, okay, I'm not allowed to do anything that's off my budget. Like we said before, you could adjust, but definitely, even if you think like it's impossible to stick to a budget, trust me, it's worth creating one beforehand, and then, being a little flexible when it comes to it. And the more effort that you put into it, the more peace of mind you'll have. Now, okay, this took longer than I expected. little bit longer than I expected. Maybe we'll have another webinar where we'll do the emotional part, the behavioral part. I just want to say that if you need help with any of these things, if you need help, like I said, getting a financial picture, we have Masila helps people do that. Masila is here to help. We're here to help people, and we help, Baruch Hashem, thousands of families, and it's an amazing thing that we're able to do. We come and help people who thought that there's no hope for them and there's no way out. We've helped so many people. On the other hand, we help people who are in good situations as well. We have people who have good income. That's not the problem. The problem is not that they don't have good income, but they might not have the right communication when it comes to the finances. Or people who have communication with the spouse is fine and their income is fine, but how do they mechanech their children? People want that also. How am I going to speak to my children about it? And if I don't have clarity on what I want, I'm not going to be able to be mechanech my children when it comes to the money either. So people are able. So the coaches are able to help clients with all these things. Like I said, we have a 2-meeting package where we can help you get awareness. We have a full 6-meeting package where we take you through the whole thing, awareness, and then we help you create a vision and make a work plan for that, and then create a budget and run the budget from month to month. And what else? We have newlywed coaching, very good, excellent thing to do. If you know people who are making a wedding and their children, they want their children to start off on the right financial foot, and they haven't gotten the right education. So we have that as well, the newlywed coaching. So I hope you benefited from this. I'm going to stop screen sharing and I'm going to open up for questions.